Athens is one of the oldest named cities in the world, having been continuously inhabited for perhaps 5,000 years. Situated in southern Europe, Athens became the leading city of ancient Greece in the first millennium BC, and its cultural achievements during the 5th century BC laid the foundations of Western civilization. During the early Middle Ages, the city experienced a decline, then recovered under the later Byzantine Empire, and was relatively prosperous during the period of the Crusades, 12th and 13th centuries, benefiting from Italian trade. Following a period of sharp decline under the rule of the Ottoman Empire, Athens re-emerged in the 19th century as the capital of the independent and self-governing Greek state. There is evidence that the site on which the Acropolis, High City, stands was first inhabited in the Neolithic period, perhaps as a defensible settlement around the end of the 4th millennium BC, or a little later. The site is a natural defensive position which commands the surrounding plains. It is located about 20 kilometers, 12 miles, inland from the Saronic Gulf, in the center of the Cephisian Plain, a fertile valley surrounded by rivers. To the east lies Mount Hymettus, to the north, Mount Pentelicus. Ancient Athens, in the 1st millennium BC, occupied a very small area compared to the sprawling metropolis of modern Greece. The ancient walled city encompassed an area measuring about 2 kilometers, 1.5 km, from east to west and slightly less than that from north to south, although at its peak the ancient city had suburbs extending well beyond these walls. The Acropolis was situated just south of the center of this walled area. The Agora, the commercial and social center of the city, lay about 400 melinars, 1,300 ft, north of the Acropolis, in what is now the Monastiraki district. The hill of the Panics, where the Athenian assembly met, lay at the western end of the city. The Eridanos River flowed through the city. One of the most important religious sites in ancient Athens was the Temple of Athena, known today as the Parthenon, which stood on top of the Acropolis, where its evocative ruins still stand. Two other major religious sites, the Temple of Hephaestus, which is still largely intact, and the Temple of Olympian Zeus or Olympeion, once the largest temple in mainland Greece but now in ruins, also lay within the city walls. Athens has been inhabited from Neolithic times, possibly from the end of the 4th millennium BC, or over 5,000 years. By 1412 BC, the settlement had become an important center of the Mycenaean civilization, and the Acropolis was the site of a major Mycenaean fortress, whose remains can be recognized from sections of the characteristic Cyclopean walls. The Athenians always maintained that they were pure Ionians with no Dorian element. Citation needed. However, Athens, like many other Bronze Age settlements, went into economic decline for around 150 years following this. Iron Age burials in the Kerameikos and other locations are often richly provided for and demonstrate that from 900 BC onwards, Athens was one of the leading centers of trade and prosperity in the region, as were Lefkandi in Euboea and Knossos in Crete. This position may well have resulted from its central location in the Greek world, its secure stronghold on the Acropolis and its access to the sea, which gave it a natural advantage over inland rivals such as Thebes and Sparta. Pergamon, also referred to by its modern Greek form, Pergamos. Pergamos, a Mentorsaur, was a rich and powerful ancient Greek city in Mysia, northwest of the modern city of Bergama, Turkey. During the Hellenistic period, it became the capital of the Kingdom of Pergamon in 281–133 BC under the Attalid dynasty, who transformed it into one of the major cultural centers of the Greek world. Many remains of its monuments can still be seen, and especially the masterpiece of the Pergamon altar. Pergamon was the northernmost of the 7 churches of Asia cited in the New Testament book of Revelation. The city is centered on a 335-meter-high, 100 ft mesa of andesite, which formed its acropolis. This mesa falls away sharply on the north, west, and east sides, but 3 natural terraces on the south side provide a route up to the top. To the west of the Acropolis, the Salinas River, modern Bergamanzai, flows through the city, while the Sadius River, modern Kestelzai, passes by to the east. Settlement of Pergamon can be detected as far back as the Archaic period, thanks to modest archaeological finds, especially fragments of pottery imported from the west, particularly eastern Greece and Corinth, which date to the late 8th century BC. Earlier habitation in the Bronze Age cannot be demonstrated, although Bronze Age stone tools are found in the surrounding area. The earliest mention of Pergamon in literary sources comes from Xenophon's Anabasis, since the March of the 10,000 under Xenophon's command ended at Pergamon in 400–399 BC. Xenophon, who calls the city Pergamos, handed over the rest of his Greek troops, some 5,000 men according to Diodorus, to Thybron, who was planning an expedition against the Persian satraps Tissaphernes and Pharnabazus, at this location in March 399 BC. Only with Alexander the Great were Pergamon and the surrounding area removed from Persian control. There are few traces of the pre-Hellenistic city, since in the following period the terrain was profoundly changed, and the construction of broad terraces involved the removal of almost all earlier structures. Parts of the Temple of Athena, as well as the walls and foundations of the altar in the sanctuary of Demeter, go back to the 4th century. Healing centers were on the Greek island of Kos and on the west coast of Turkey, in the Pergamon. The Asclepion in Pergamon, which is thought to have been founded in the 4th century BC and became famous in the 2nd century AD, is also known as the place where Galen started his profession. Galen was the court physician of the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius, who was also considered as one of the most important Stoic philosophers. Galen was not only one of the most important physicians of the ancient Roman period, he was also a scientist and philosopher. In a nutshell, a polymath. He and many famous doctors from Pergamon were treating their patients in this aforementioned healing center dedicated to the Asclepion archetype. One of the most interesting points for us was that the Asclepion Healing Center was connected to the city of Pergamon. This connection was provided by a path called the Via Tecta, Sacred Way, which was covered with a vault and protected the patients from adverse weather conditions. It is as if Pergamon, which represents the material world, and the Asclepion Healing Center, which symbolizes the spiritual realm, were united by this 1 kilometer-long road. Before the patients set foot on the Via Tecta, they were examined by priest-doctors, Asclepiades, at a large arched door known as the Virangati. People with a terminal illness or pregnant woman were not allowed to enter. According to a rumor, there was an inscription on the Virangate saying, "Death is forbidden to enter the Asclepion," as a token of respect to the gods. In our opinion, these words meant that the archetype Hades, who represents death and the underworld in mythology, was not invited to the sanctuary. The last part of the Via Tecta was arranged as a road with columns during the reign of the Roman Emperor Hadrian, and there were shops selling votive items on both sides of the road. The Via Tecta, Sacred Way, ended at a monumental entrance, the Propylon.